Hey, Sheena, thanks for hanging out with me here today.
Hello, Mark. Thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me.
So I have to say, because I can see where you're sitting, and you're sitting in this really amazing space. You are in the treehouse, and that
I'm in the treehouse.
and
I
that
am.
relates specifically to a really cool YouTube channel, Treehouse TV. Um,
Yeah. We started. I mean, my husband. Shall I go back to the beginning? How the treehouse
that
came to
I would
be?
love to hear that. Yes.
Okay. The story of the treehouse is my husband is very resourceful. I think is probably the nice way to put it. Um, a squirrel in a past life is the other way to put it because he's a right hoarder. He's got his motorbikes and all machinery and everything all spilling into the house and guitars. But anyway, so he said, oh, we've got this beautiful big eucalyptus tree at the bottom of our garden. And he said, I think I'm gonna build around the tree. And I said, are you? And he said, yeah. He said, because the boys, when they were younger, because we've got two teenage sons now, but when they were tiny, we used to have a tree house that was above the tree, around the tree at the top. And they
Right.
used to have a zip line and, what boys are like. But they don't do that anymore. So he said, yeah, I'm going to build a tree. So it's all built out of recycled stuff. I mean, he works at the local marina because we live on the southeast sort of coastline of the UK.
Okay.
So we're very close to we've got water all around us. And part of the wall of the house, or certainly the floorboards, is an old sleeper that we picked up from the beach. We've got boat windows, portals. It didn't cost anything in currency, in money, but it probably took him about 18 months to build.
Wow.
And I said to him, God, if I don't write anything magical in there, then something, or if magical things don't happen in this place, then something is wrong. But
Right.
they do, because I use it as it's a therapy room. I do my readings in here. I write in here. I've got a lovely, I don't know if you can see my lovely oak desk in the background.
Right.
I write in here when the weather's good enough, because it's very rustic. There's no heating. It's full of drafts.
Okay.
So it's freezing in the winter.
Okay.
And of course we do the interviews for the Treehouse TV in here. So that was an idea that we had about a year ago, and I just said, I really love promoting other people and interested in other creatives that want to sort of get out a bit more. So that's what we started doing. Sorry. That's what we started doing. So I interview sort of other musicians, writers, anybody really that's got a story to tell, got things that they want to put out into the world. And the drummer, mandolin player in our band, he is a videographer, so he does all the filming, which is great, because we don't have to pay him. I just make him lots of, Ian makes him lots of cups of coffee, and we cook him a meal at the end of it. So no, we give him some petrol money, but we have great fun in here. We do, really.
So
Yeah.
I've got to figure out how you find people to interview for the treehouse, and do you want to come into my treehouse and I can interview you about your creative endeavor? Like, how does that pitch go? How does that conversation
That's
usually?
what I do, basically, yeah. I mean, I just, we've had a few, the last people that we haven't had anybody in here this year, because I've been trying to get my head down to write. And as you know, there are so many aspects to writing, and then you've got family life, and you can't do it all. So I said that I wouldn't do any interviews for the winter, but that we would continue in the spring. So now we're kind of into the spring.
Right.
But what was the
Because
question?
you're going to have to wear a lot of clothing because there's no insulation in the winter, right?
Oh, I do, yeah.
There's going to be layers after layers because
Definitely.
everyone's freezing hot cocoa or something.
Yeah. But the last people that we had in here that I interviewed were a young couple. They were a friend of ours, her son, he's 18, and his cousin, and they're a young sort of acoustic duo. And they came in, and they were the first musicians that came and played in the treehouse. And they are just, a talented, lovely pair of people. And that was really interesting. But they were the last, just before Christmas they came in.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned playing music in the treehouse, because I was going to ask you, I said, so you do readings there, you do the Treehouse TV interviews, you do your writing there. I was going to say, do you and the band actually play in the treehouse as well, or is that in a separate studio?
There's not a lot of room for that, Mark. Well, after we probably all get in, there are 6 of us in the band, so it'd be a little bit difficult. You haven't got much elbow room for,
Okay.
no, but we do actually rehearse in the house. We've got quite a big loud living room.
Right.
And we had the band down last week actually because we got a gig this weekend in London. So everybody's sort of spread out all over the country. So it's quite difficult. It's quite a job organising everyone to be in one place at one time.
Right.
So, but no, we wouldn't all get in the. We would get in the treehouse, but we wouldn't get much done apart from laughing and yeah.
So you do vocals with the band, with the group. As the writer, are you also the lyricist?
Yes.
Okay. So
yeah, I write all the songs. I've been writing all the songs. We've been together for about 5 years, and before that I was in a duo with my husband Ian, who's also in Morrigan's Path. And sorry, I'm going to give you the story of my I'm just naturally sort of going back now.
Right, of course.
I started writing poetry when I was a sort of an angst-ridden teenager, I suppose you could say.
Okay.
And that was the first thing that I used to write was poetry. And when I met up with my husband, he's been a musician all his life, and he sort of said to me, these poems are quite good, why don't you try and put them to music? So I was like, yeah, all right, I can play guitar a little bit, badly. And so that's how it all started, really. Started writing my own songs. Ian was always very supportive and very sort of encouraging, and that helps. If you've got good feedback, if you've got positive encouragement from the start, I think that makes so much of a difference to anybody who's creative, because it then gives you the confidence to keep moving forwards and keep writing. And as you know, as a writer, the more you do it, as in any craft, the only way to get better at any craft is to practice it. And
right.
And so I now sort of listen to songs that I wrote back in sort of the late 90s, and I think, oh God, did I really write that? And they're a lot better now. They're probably more mainstream now than they've ever been.
Okay.
But yeah, so I love writing songs.
So you guys perform, you do it at fairs, etc. You've got 3 albums out, I believe, right? Like Morgan's Path has at least. Well, I thought I saw 3 albums.
On the Bandcamp page, that's a single. I'll Be Waiting is a single. Okay. Yeah, we've got 2 albums. The last one we brought out about 18 months ago, Beyond the Veil. And we're kind of halfway through recording the 3rd album. So it's a little bit, and it's a little bit like books. You make with a song, we think, well, we used to wait until we got the whole batch ready to bring out as an album. But I said to Ian the other day, we've got about 4 or 5 singles now that we could actually just put up on the Bandcamp page as singles. And then once we've got, maybe sort of 10, 12, we can make an album out of it. But I have to say, with the music, there's never been a very good business head that's gone with the art. It's always been, we just want to get out and play, just want to write the songs. Yes, we get paid for our gigs, but we also do a lot of free gigs, a lot of charity gigs, and it's always been for the love of it. But yeah, so I'm not very, but I'm trying to now, Mark, become more business-minded, because I want to sell some books. I want to be able to have a career as an author.
Of course. Well, that's a great segue, because I wanted to specifically talk to you about your Witchlet novel series. You've got The Madness and the Magic, which came out in March of 2019, and that's book 1 in the series. And then you have Bonkers and Broomsticks, that's book 2, that is due out in May, actually, May 1st, 2019. Yes, the nerves.
The actual pre-order deadline is end of this week. So
for Amazon to get the files in?
Emails from KDP every day saying, to ensure your pre-order is up by the 27th, So I'm thinking, oh my God. So yeah, to wind back, I actually bought out book one. I was traditionally published by Moon Books, which is an imprint for John Hunn Publishing, back in 2015.
Okay.
And the actual story I wrote as a NaNoWriMo entry in 2012.
Really?
And I wrote it as a remedy for my seriously debilitating menopausal symptoms, as some women of my age go through, and how I didn't end up in a divorce courts or a straitjacket, I don't know. But anyway, I wrote that as just, and it was semi-autobiographical. I think I found out about Nano about 3 days before the beginning of November, and I thought, I'm going to do that. I'm going to see if I can write 50,000 words in 30 days. And I did, but I had to pull out of the ether within about a couple of days. Just, I had no plan, so I thought, oh, I'll do it about what I know, a crazy witch who's in a midlife crisis, and she falls in love with the local guitar playing vicar. And it's really about her ridiculous antics to snare this vicar. And that kind of weaves in and out of another storyline, which is to do with her daughter, who gets unexpectedly pregnant, and then has this awful, serious sort of horse riding accident. Yeah, their lives kind of, those stories weave together, and it's pretty much lives up to its title. It's kind of quite mad and quite magical, but yeah. So I had great time writing that, and it was serialized on this pagan blog for about 12 months, and the publisher of the blog said, of the imprint, said to me, if this is any good, we'll serialize it and you can put it up a chapter at a time, which was great for me as a writer, because having written that first draft for Nano, I had no idea about editing or rewriting, and it just I had a chapter. I put up a chapter every month, so I had a month to rewrite sort of about 2,000 words, 4,000 words, which isn't a lot, but when you're starting out, it's a lot of words to try and polish up. And by the end of that year, he then said to me, there's no guarantee that we'll publish you, but you can have a go, and they did publish me, which I was very grateful for. It was validation at the time for me, but as you know, same old story. You don't get a lot of help from the publishers, apart from getting the book printed and getting it edited and getting a cover done and getting it physically out into a few shops, not many shops. But as I've realised now that I published my own book, I am so grateful for all the work they did do, because you just wouldn't realise just how many skill sets there are involved in publishing yourself.
Right.
Yeah. So
that's one that you took that when you were finished with it, and then you re-released it yourself.
Well, back in 2000, so that was 2015. In 2016, I signed up for a self-publishing course with Mark Dawson on the SPF 101 course. And sorry, I've got a wasp that's just accompanied me. No, it's one of the tree bees. They'll be hiding under the nesting under the floorboards. I signed up for the SPF 101 course. I thought, I'm seriously going to do something about self-publishing now. And I want to, because I've been an indie all my life. We've been indie publishing our music, for 20 years. So I've got that kind of indie spirit. And so I signed up for this course, and within about a few weeks of signing up for the course, they put out on social media, if anybody that had signed up wanted to go and do, they were going to do some filming, tutorials, testimonials in London. And I thought, yeah, I'm going. I hadn't even attempted to even start the first module in the course, but I thought, I'm going to this film. So I went and I met Mark Dawson and James Blatch and John Dyer, and they're lovely. And I had a coffee with Mark, and I said to him, this is what I'm doing. This is what I've got so far. I've just been published once, and I've now written the sequel to this first book. But I haven't really got any control over that first book now. If I publish this second book myself and keep the first book traditionally published, and he said to me, can you get your rights? He said, you need to get your rights back. He said, and then when you get your rights back off that first book, self-publish it, and then you've got full creative control over it. So that's kind of what I've done, and it's taken me, 3 years or 2 years from then. But as you know yourself, when you've got a family and you've got other things going on, we've got the music as well. Everything has to happen when it's supposed to.
Right.
I can't push things too much, because I do have so many sort of plates spinning. So
right.
But yeah, so I've managed to I got the rights back at the end of last year, just before Christmas, and actually then I had a chat with you at the beginning of this year, and you said to me, yeah, self-publish that book, get it up on, get it up and out there, put a pre-order link for the second book, which I've had finished,
right.
And that's what I've done.
Oh, excellent.
And then get in touch with you, and you said you'd have me on the podcast, so here I am.
There we go. That's very exciting.
I've just brought you up to speed, Mark.
Well, we've gone back through the history and back into it. So because you do so many different creative things, how do you divide your time? Is it a certain amount of time that you're working on music projects with the band? Is like writing? Do you schedule that? How do you do that? And as well, because of the readings that you do, how do you build all those different things into your daily, weekly, monthly work schedule?
Okay, it's very organic, the music and the readings, and because I'm a spiritual healer as well, so I'm a therapist, so I do healings too, and they're very sporadic. I like, for example, I had 4 readings a couple of weeks ago in 1 week, and I haven't had any for 2 weeks. That's just the way it goes. Okay. Again, I'm not particularly business-like, putting myself out there. It's really word of mouth, really, it's happened for me. With the music, so that kind of runs along daily, weekly, monthly. The music, that's always been organic. I've always worked inspirationally with the music. I've never actually said I'm going to sit down and write a song, although actually, having said that, the last song that I wrote, I did say I'm going to write a song for Imbolc, which is the Witches' Wheel of the Year. Imbolc is a pagan Celtic festival at the beginning of February, right. And the goddess which is symbolised around that festival time is the goddess Bridget, and another word for her is Bridie. So I wrote Bridie's song just before Imbolc. That was more intentional, but all the other songs, really, they come as they're meant to, and that's been very organic. But the writing, the book writing, especially now that I'm publishing myself, I do have to make, as you know, scheduled time for that. So I get up really early in the morning. I get up at sort of 6. So I'm writing for 2 hours, or as I've been publishing for the last month, doing all the jobs that you've got to do, right. I must admit, I haven't actually written any new words for a month, and I'm getting a bit panicky about that, because I'm thinking I mustn't lose my writing habit. But sometimes I'd never published myself before on Amazon, and the whole process of formatting, editing, doing the book description, the keywords, the metadata, everything, it all takes time. Getting the cover sorted out, that's right. Been a real experience for me, just working with a graphic designer, because she's the only person really that I've paid any money to. Apart from that, I'm editing myself, I'm formatted myself, until hopefully the books can start to bring in some kind of revenue, then right. I'm DIYing it, but yes, I do put in time. I do have to schedule time, and sometimes with the writing, especially recently in the last month, I've been just working in the evenings, because that's what you have to do, isn't it? Because we've got 24 hours in a day. There is plenty of time. I don't, but and I'm just as guilty of panicking about lack of time. We're running out of time. oh my God, there's nothing worse than that horrible feeling that you're running out of time. But
Yeah.
actually, if you really think about it, there is plenty of time. You just have to, and I have become more organised, because when you've got so many things going on, you have to be organised. You have to schedule time.
Right.
Otherwise, you do end up running out of it. Yeah.
For sure. Now, you also talk about being a bit organic and not as business-minded, and yet I do know that you've linked the launch of the new book with the Witches Wheel of the Year Festival. Is that for some of the launch activities that you're going to be doing in early May?
Yeah. But Bonkers and Broomsticks book 2 is coming out May the 1st, which is Beltane, which is May Day.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's another pagan. There's 12. There's 8 festivals throughout the pagan Celtic wheel, which is the witches' calendar, and Beltane is kind of just approaching summer. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that was very strategic, obviously, that you wanted to time those things together. Do you do a music touring at the same time? Do you work that in to like the book launch, the music? Do you bring those together at all?
Not consciously,
Okay.
but we are gigging around. May the 4th we're gigging. The other girl, the other vocalist that's in the band, she's just joined. She's a backing singer. She's actually having a hand fasting, which is a witch's wedding, a pagan wedding in a field, which is what Ian and I had 10 years ago. And we're playing at her wedding. We're playing at the hand fasting, so that'll be at round Beltane. And I'm going to be brave and put another pre-order in with my submission for the book 2 this week. When I publish book 2, I'm going to put another pre-order in for book 3, which I haven't quite finished yet, but I've nearly finished the first draft of it. So, but this time, Mark, I'm going to give myself the full 90 days.
Yes.
Because, it's just, I only gave myself 2 months for this pre-order, and it soon goes, doesn't it? Before you know it, it
slips away on you.
Yeah.
That's so. I lost where I was. You had mentioned.
I'm yapping on, aren't I?
You had mentioned hanging out with James and John and Mark, Self-Publishing Formula, the folks. But you'd also mentioned to me that you are going to be going to another sort of gathering of writerly minds. 20 Books Edinboro is coming up, and you're going to be attending that.
Yes, I know. I'm so excited. I've been thinking about this. I've been, dreaming about it, you could say, because I still dream. For ever since because I'm in the 20 Books group on Facebook, but I'm a bit of a lurker. I have to admit to being a bit of a lurker in that book, that group. Although I do run a couple of my own groups.
Well, there are 20,000 plus people in there. Most of the people are lurking. What?
There are 40,000 people.
40,000 now? I can't keep track of it, but
I know. But I follow the, Michael Anderley and Craig Martell quite a lot, quite regularly. I listen to their, anything their podcasts or anything that's on YouTube. I've been doing this for the last sort of 2 or 3 years. Since I signed up on the self-publishing course. I go out for walks with my dogs daily, and I just stick my earphones in and just listen to podcasts. That's what I do. And I think, because I think when you want to learn, and there is so much to learn about indie publishing, when you want to learn, you're like a sponge, aren't you? And you just kind of absorb, but through osmosis, through audible osmosis, I think I've absorbed hopefully some knowledge. But yeah, the 20 books, the whole kind of ethos, the whole kind of philosophy of the 20 books has always fascinated me. I don't know if I could, but actually, I released that first book 6 weeks ago now. I'm publishing at the end of this week. It won't be 6 weeks till the next book, but I want to build some momentum. I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to sort of produce at that kind of speed. I think you have to find your own speed, your own sort of momentum with it. But so I'm and last week I looked on the 20 books thing, and they'd got like an event page for Edinburgh, and I thought, oh, that would just be fantastic to go.
Yeah.
But I couldn't even begin to imagine being able to afford it. So I borrowed the money. And I borrowed the money, and I thought, well, hopefully I'm going to learn a few things, learn how to sell some books by going. And I put sent Craig a message and said, is this still, are there any tickets left? And apparently he was closing it down the following day. So I managed to get in, and then they folded registration. So yeah, I'm going for the whole week. I'm going to do the writing retreat, because they've got like 2 days of writing before the weekend conference. And they've got the weekend conference, and they've got 3 days of writing after that. And I mean, already I'm just looking at other people that are posting, and they're already planning writing books in those 5 days. And I'm thinking, writing a book in 5 days? You know, these people have their fingers on fire. I'll be crashing out with buckets of cold water. I can't believe that I'm going to be sitting with those kind of people. But I'm hoping that, you know, some of that kind of energy and that, you know, drive is going to rub off on me, and that I will be able to benefit from it. I'm sure I will, because I think whatever field you're in, if you're with people that are doing something that are further down the road than you are, you know, if they can sort of look back and say, well, you know, this is, then that's brilliant. I think you've got to be with people that are already doing what you want to do. You know, that's the way to learn and improve, and to you know, and hopefully hang on to their shirt tails.
Well, I think being at I was at the last 20 Books Vegas, and again a much larger group there, I believe, but you will be inspired and impressed, and again, you'll be with your people, you'll be with other creators, and you'll be learning, you'll be sharing, and there's this great even the non-programmed content, the hallway conversations, the people you sit beside that you never were expecting to meet. There's all of these amazing benefits that come from a gathering like that you can't even plan. You know, so that's going to be great.
I think also, yeah, I mean, you just hit the nail on the head. It's about being with people in the flesh, you know, physically, because yes, the internet is wonderful. The global World Wide Web is amazing for networking, and I've met some wonderful, and you know, have some wonderful sort of relationships with people in sort of all over the world. But there is no comparison. It's a bit like, you know, I'm a performer, and I love being out performing live. Yes, I love recording. I love working in a studio. And it's all good practice, but you can't beat actually gigging. You can't beat being on a stage and engaging with an audience, and that interaction, you know, and bouncing off that energy, that live energy. And, you know, it's like, you know, when I spoke to Mark Dawson, when I spoke to you at the beginning of the year, they were, I know we haven't met in the flesh, but that was that one-to-one sort of interaction. You know, you need it, I think, with people. Because otherwise these online courses, you know, they can all become a little bit sterile. It's all about being, you know, in front of a screen, and you have to have tremendous self-discipline, I think, don't you, if you're going to just work on your own, you know.
For sure.
But occasionally, yes, and I said to my husband at the beginning of this year, I need to get out this year and meet other authors, you know, because I don't really know that many. I know a young lady who's in the next village. I actually had her in the Treehouse. I interviewed her in the Treehouse last year. She's another indie author that's just publishing herself. So that was really interesting. But apart from her, I don't really see any other authors, you know. Lots of musos, because that's our life, you know. We've got lots of musician friends, but I don't really know that many authors. And yeah, I feel like I'm kind of seriously diving into the deep end by putting myself into the 20 Books Edinboro camp. So we'll see how we get on. I'll let you know.
Well, don't worry. There's plenty of authors there who will help keep you afloat and buoy you in the water.
Yeah.
So that's one of the
Yeah.
great things. Is that as you know from the online community, it's about supporting one another. It's about lifting each other up. It's about scaling the mountain in your own way to the top, and cheering each other on. So I think that'll be great.
There's so much I've got to learn. You know, I'm for me at the moment, it's the genre thing. You know, what category do I put my book in? Where does this sit in the whole sort of genre scale?
Well, because you've got humor, you've got paranormal, you've got pagan, you've got a combination, right? So there may be a readership of people who enjoy women's contemporary humor that would love it, but they maybe are not familiar with, well, I've never read about witches before, or something like that. So there's this opportunity for this great Venn diagram of different audiences coming to enjoy it. So yeah, there'll be lots of authors there who are writing in maybe similar genres or urban fantasy or something like that you'll probably get a lot of ideas from them as well.
I hope so, because from what I've learned so far, initially you think, oh, I want to be able to, I want as many people to enjoy this as possible, and you think, oh, keep it broad, but actually the more you narrow your niche down, don't you? I think the more you target your audience, and that is what I need the help with. That's what I need the help with, because I think it's the same for all authors, no matter how long somebody's been doing it for. Everyone is still focused on where am I going to find my readers, or where are they going to find me? How can I connect with them? And I think that's where the internet is a fantastic thing, because just doing what we're doing at the moment, it's wonderful, isn't it? Being able to sort of interact, chat with somebody across the world. And I love video, and that's why, I work with video a lot. I do plan to do more little sort of impromptu videos with my phone in the treehouse, because I've got some oracle cards which I self-published a few years ago, and I use them with my reading. So, I'm thinking about maybe doing a little bit of treehouse magic sort of TV, just with my own oracle cards and something like that. But I've got loads of ideas. But yeah, it's just really targeting your audience, and yeah, that's the big thing, isn't it, really, for any writer?
Yeah,
really.
Exactly. So now that we've given the listeners a taste of all the different creative pursuits that you engage in, now that we've got them intrigued and wanting to check out more, where can they find out more about you, find out more about your books, find out more about your music, find out more about the therapies that you do and the readings, as well as the Treehouse TV talks, like all the different things that you offer? Where can people find you?
SheenaCundy.com is my website, so that's the hub. And from there you can find me on social media. I mean, Treehouse TV is my YouTube channel. I've just started a Witchlet podcast. Well, it's not really a podcast as such, it's more of a YouTube show. We call it a podcast, with another indie author, because I run a Witchlet group on Facebook with 4 other indie Witchlet authors, and Wendy Steele and I have just started our own sort of little podcast, because we just want to get Witchlet out there, because Witchlet is chicklet but with witches, and I think that, like as you say, there's a lot of elements to the genre, that there's a lot of people, I mean, my husband really enjoys it. I've got people that aren't pagans, that aren't witches, that aren't magically minded, that have enjoyed the story. So I think that it's definitely something that will attract. But so I run the Witchlet group. Sorry, you were asking about where else you can find me. So, and we're bringing out an anthology. I'm publishing that off of Treehouse Magic, my little Treehouse Magic publishing logo. We're publishing that. We've been running the group for a couple of years, and we've got 27 entries, short stories, poems, essays, and I'm going to publish that on my KDP bookshelf. So and that's coming out at midsummer. So that's my next that's an ongoing project as well, that I've said that I'll publish it. So why do I say these things?
Because you can't turn off. You can't turn off the creative spirit. You can't.
You know what? Since I've been in my sort of mid-40s onwards, I've never, and I've gone through that kind of, you know, whole menopausal midlife crisis thing. I've never been so creative, never. And I say to people, you know, don't worry about getting older because, and I think it's the same for men as well. You know, okay, women, you get past childbearing age, and what do you do with all that creative energy?
Right.
We've got so much of it, and all of us, and it's just, you know, it's just finding it, trusting that it will find its own expression, and then when you have that expression, whatever format you can produce in, go for it. And I think that, like I said earlier, you can find the time, because we're all unique. We've all got our own gifts, and if we can just hone those gifts and then share them, you know, and that's what the marketplace is for, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, exactly.
But it'd be nice to make a living out of it, Mark. That's what I really want to do.
For sure, for sure. That is the dream of many. Yeah. Following your passions and exploring the creative spirit and actually being able to live off of that is fantastic. Sheena, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. It was a blast.
That's been a pleasure, Mark. I've really enjoyed it. I hope I haven't waffled on too much.
No, it was a pleasure. It was almost like I was in the treehouse with you, because I'm surrounded by wood and paper.
Oh, are you? Yeah.
Right there. Overseas.
There is a lot of wood there, isn't there?
Yeah, there you go. So we're both in our own little tree houses here.
Yeah. If you ever come to the UK, you must come. We must do an interview.
I'd love to do that. That would be a lot of fun. It looks like a really magical place.
It is, and England's not very big, so we're 60 miles from London. So
nice and easy. Not like the sprawling Canada. So.
No, I'd love to go to Canada though. That's definitely on my bucket list. Excellent. When I start selling these books.
There we go. Thanks a lot, Sheena.
Thanks, Mark. Cheers.